Grace and peace, everyone. Most of you all know that I used to be a classroom teacher and I taught first through third grade here in the metro Atlanta area. One of the things that teachers are always told is that your expectations of the students really dictate and govern how well the student will do. So if I have really high expectations and I require high from the students, they will grow to reach that standard. Whereas if I have very low expectations for a student, they will not grow further than my expectations. Sure, there'll be outliers, but a lot of the time, when we expect from them, it ultimately impacts how they respond because it plays a role in how you teach the child. If you really don't believe this child can learn anything above a certain level, that's really where you're going to teach that child, and that child will subsequently only learn to that level. If you really believe this child can learn at the sky's the limit level, you're going to teach at that level, and therefore the student will grow up to that level. Sure, there'll be some that can't, some that won't. There'll be some that are able to thrive even in a low teaching environment. But for the most part, that's the overall. Most children learn and grow according to your expectations. So having low expectations oftentimes needs to be evaluated. Why do you have these low expectations about this particular child? Or why do you have this low expectation about this group of children? Is it because you feel they cannot? Is it because you know something about them that is clear that they are not able to thrive in this environment? Or do you have a bigotry or some kind of bias toward the child just because maybe the way they came to school, maybe their parents, maybe their cleanliness, maybe their socioeconomic status, maybe their ethnicity? Maybe that's why you don't actually expect them to do better, and therefore you only teach them at a certain level because you don't think they can do better, because you ultimately have a bias toward them. Now, I bring all that up, and I told you that story and gave you that scenario because today we're going to look at what is the ill, the yuck of white bigotry toward Black people or people of color or other ethnic groups, and in regards to voter IDs. So we're going to pull in, we're going to just let a senator explain his perception of this scenario, and we'll see what he says. And let's go.
Representative Wesley Hunt. He serves as U.S. Representative for Texas 38th Congressional District. He was first elected in 2023 and serves on the House Judiciary Committee, as well as the House Subcommittee on the Constitution and Limited Government. He received his Bachelor of Science from the United States Military Academy at West Point. After serving 8 years in the United States Army, he attended Cornell University, where he obtained a Master's of Business Administration and Public Administration and Industrial Labor Relations. You're a busy guy. We're honored to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Congressman Hunt, proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Durbin and Ranking Member Graham, for having me here today to speak about voting rights in America, the country that I love dearly. More importantly, I'm here to talk about the left's soft bigotry of low expectations. Because it's the Democrat Party, not the Republican Party, that thinks so little of Black America as a people of color that they make the case that being Black in America means we can't obtain a government ID to vote. And that's not only a ridiculous assertion, it's demeaning and it's insulting. When it comes down to it, many of my colleagues on the left like to pretend that we're still living in the 1950s. Well, we're not. I've got some good news for you. It's 2024, and I know what year it is because I've been Black for just over 40 years. And I'm also the son of a retired lieutenant colonel who grew up in a segregated South. You see, my parents grew up in a Jim Crow South in the 50s and 60s in New Orleans, Louisiana. Their next generation, my parents had 3 kids. My sister, brother, and I all went to West Point, all 3 of us. We all served our country in combat. And I sit before you today as a sitting United States congressman in a district in a suburb of Houston, Texas, that's a white majority district, that President Trump would have won by 25 points, and I won by almost 30 points. And that doesn't happen unless we've made some incredible progress in this great nation. Now, my colleagues on the left like to say that common sense voting laws, including requiring a government-issued ID, are racist, discriminatory, and burdensome. Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government-issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government-issued IDs, and while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen?
Okay.
Be a responsible adult in this country.
Sorry. Man, messed it up.
But 6 government-issued IDs. Personal responsibility.
Okay, I was trying to catch it right when he said he gives the remedy. I'm gonna back up. I know I messed that up. I might have to edit this one. Let's back it up just a little taste.
My military ID card.
I'm a
racist, discriminatory, and burdensome.
Please forgive me.
Do you know what my father had back in the 40s and 50s before it was even cool? A government-issued ID. And continuing in his footsteps, I too have multiple government-issued IDs, and while that might be shocking to many people in this country, people may ask, how's that happen? It's very simple.
All right, there we go. That was a pause. That's where I was supposed to stop. Sorry about that. And I just want to give him a second to breathe that out and just think about how evil it is that we tell people that you can't get an ID in 2024. We're not talking about 1824 or 1724. We're talking about 2024. You can't get a government ID. It is ridiculous. But please understand and please note, the only people that are saying that are bigots. You don't see Black people walking around here saying they can't get a government ID. Please tell me. Please. We don't do it. You have an ID. And the bad thing is that the only reason they say it's racist, because they don't say it's racist for anything else. And we all know the long list of other places where you need IDs. We don't say that that's racist. We only say it's racist to get an ID to vote because we don't want people to have to prove that they vote because we want to have unfettered, insane voting situations. That's it. There's no other good reason why you would want an unchecked, unpoliced voting system. But he's actually going to explain a whole bunch more about it. So let's let him go. Shout out to Wesley Hunt.
It's personal responsibility for all Americans in this country, regardless of what you look like. Sitting with me today is my global entry card, my military ID card, my Texas driver's license, my Texas license to carry, because that's how we roll in Texas, my congressional card, and of course, the good old-fashioned American passport. What sorcery is this? What am I, the Black Houdini? How was I able to pull off the impossible and attain not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 government-issue IDs? Personal responsibility in this country. I fought for this country as an Apache helicopter pilot to protect free and fair elections, and having a government-issued ID isn't racist, it's American. You need to have an ID to drive a car, to check into the airport, open a bank account. You need an ID for basically everything to be a responsible adult in this country, except for voting, apparently, according to the left. Black America does not need well-meaning liberals putting their arms around us and telling us how we should go to the polls. In fact, if you look at recent headlines and polls, you will find that Black men specifically in this country are more fired up than ever to participate in the next presidential election.
I agree.
And I think I know why, and I'm really looking forward to these results. For the record, in the 2022 midterms in Georgia, it proved that election integrity and ballot accessibility can be achieved hand in hand. After the 2020 election, Georgia passed a voter election integrity law, and subsequently, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the state of Georgia alleging that the Georgia law is discriminatory and aims to restrict citizens from voting. President Biden even called this law, and I quote, Jim Crow 2.0. Really? In my humble opinion, referencing Jim Crow for common sense election integrity laws is offensive to those who actually experienced Jim Crow, like my parents and their parents before them. In fact, the law wasn't discriminatory at all, because in the 2022 midterms, Georgia voters shattered voter turnout records across the state. And despite that record-breaking turnout in Georgia, the DOJ lawsuit is still pending. I suspect that it's because that record-breaking turnout resulted in a Republican governor being elected in Georgia, but I digress. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, which I tend to do.
Do it.
I have a lot of respect for John Lewis, but the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act is not about protecting voting rights. It's about solidifying Democrat power nationally. It's about federal control over state and local elections, which, by the way, is unconstitutional. It's about diminishing the security of our elections. And voter integrity laws aren't discriminatory. They are required for a functioning constitutional republic. I'm going to tell you today, I categorically reject the soft bigotry of low expectations.
There we go.
Black Americans and people of color are proud. We expect more of ourselves. That's what Black excellence really means to me.
Come on, man.
And above all else, we don't need a new solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Let me be clear. Making it to the polls to vote in person with an ID in this country today is a very low bar, extremely low bar. We can do it, white people can do it, Black people can do it, Americans can do it.
Come on.
And we should all want that for free and fair elections. If you want to be on the right side of history, you should reject the Democrats' Party's attempt to wind the clock back 70 years. Because I'm sitting right here in front of you, and I'm here to tell you we've come a long way. Let's continue this progress. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, sir, for having me.
Thank you, Congressman.
All right. I just thought that was a dope response to the insane, bigoted idea that Black people and people of color, every other minority group, is not able to get an ID. So I know that many people are going to push back on that. So let me know down in the comments what you think about it. And if you want to, how many IDs do you have? I know I got 4. So how many IDs do you have that you would use to that you could prove who you are? Whatever, I appreciate it though. I really do appreciate you all taking the time to watch these videos. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your likes, your shares, all that kind of good stuff. And I'm looking forward to doing this again with you all, Lord willing, real soon. So until next time, everybody, grace and peace. Take care.